Everybody loves Disney characters, but it turns out that some of your favorites were almost very different. For this video, we're taking a look at the secret origins of 10 of your favorite Disney characters. Be sure to leave us a comment, and if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, go right ahead. Before we start, can you guess the movie from these emojis? Stay tuned for the answer at the end of our video, and be sure to keep watching for fun trivia questions and fun facts along the way. Here are 10 secret Disney origins that they kept from us.
Is it ruffians? Folks, have they come for me?
Tangled. Disney has brought us some pretty great movies in recent years, and in 2010 we finally got to see a good adaptation of the classic fairy tale Rapunzel. The movie introduces some pretty great characters, both human and not, and also leaves us singing their very catchy tunes. It's definitely impressive to think that Disney was able to take such a simple story and turn it into a massive feature-length success. One thing that really added to the movie was the great leading male character of Flynn Rider.
How you doing?
Flynn is Rapunzel's love interest, and he presents a much more complex version of the prince who rescues the damsel in distress in the original story. In the movie, Flynn looks like your classic Disney prince, but it turns out his original designs were very different. One early draft of Flynn Rider had him looking short and plump, kinda like Shrek's Lord Farquaad, and another version presented a rugged-looking older prince, whose look was actually based on Johnny Depp.
They just can't get my nose right.
Looking back at Flynn Rider's origins gives us a fun glimpse into what could have been, and as it turns out, Rapunzel's original look was far different as well. Hang around until the end of the video to find out what the Tangled princess almost looked like. The Beast. With the live-action adaptation of Beauty and the Beast hitting theaters, the classic Disney movie is all over the news these days. From the looks of things, the film seems to have done a pretty great job of staying faithful to the animated picture. That being said, there has been a lot of controversy around the appearance of the Beast, as many folks were confused about the surprisingly large size of his horns in the new adaptation. If this small change shocked fans, we can't imagine what they might have thought if Disney had decided to go back to their original designs for the beastly leading man. By taking a look at the original concept art for the animated movie, you can clearly see that the Beast was first designed to look much more like a wolf. This appearance would have definitely made him look creepier, but it also would have taken away his horns, so who knows how people would have felt.
You realize what you could have done?
Now, while we're talking about the Beast, are you able to name the actor who's playing the character in the 2017 live-action adaptation? Hold on to your answer until the end of the video.
You're a lot smaller than my last master. Either that or I'm getting bigger. Look at me from the side. Do I look different to you?
Genie. If there was a competition of the greatest Disney characters of all time, we have to think that the Genie, who was famously voiced by the late great Robin Williams, would finish near the top of that list.
You little punum there.
Everything that the Genie does is amazing, and he totally steals all of the scenes he's in. As it turns out, Robin Williams actually improvised a great deal of the Genie's lines, so we'll never really know what the character's lines were supposed to be. The Genie's giant blue look is also iconic, but like the other characters on this list, he almost looked very different. Early sketches of the Genie had him wearing clothes similar to Aladdin, having giant horns, and one drawing had the Genie looking absolutely terrifying. In the end, Disney totally nailed the look by creating a magical character that looks like a cross between Jay Leno and a giant blue balloon. The Princess and the Frog. In 2009, Disney brought the world the Louisiana-based movie The Princess and the Frog, and also introduced their first ever African-American Disney princess, Tiana. Although Tiana is the only Disney princess who actually has a job, she still looks pretty young. That almost wasn't the case, as the original designs for the princess had her look much older and with much more sex appeal. This alternate look definitely would have made a lot of sense if Beyoncé had ended up landing the leading role, but since the singer refused to audition for the part, Disney did not cast her. In the end, the younger appearance of Tiana matches the voice and the storyline, and it may have been somewhat confusing to see a much more sexualized version of the character at the center of this fairy tale story.
If there are any Indians out there, I'll find them.
Pocahontas. This is one story whose origins we can actually talk about a lot, as Pocahontas is the only Disney princess who was a real person. Unfortunately, her life wasn't exactly as the movie showed it. It was much worse. First of all, she kind of hated John Smith, who pretty much lied about everything that happened between them. Also, Pocahontas was kidnapped, held hostage for a year, renamed Rebecca, and paraded around as propaganda during the colonization of North America. On top of all that trauma, Pocahontas actually died at the age of 21. We can understand why Disney decided to alter the story to make it more kid-friendly, and we can also understand why they decided to alter their original designs for Princess Pocahontas. The first drawings showed Pocahontas looking much sexier, which definitely would have added an element of maturity to the kids' movie. But in the end, Disney went with the more politically correct option, and we have to think that it was probably the right call. Pocahontas is also special because she is only one of 2 princesses who has multiple love interests in her movie. Can you name the other one? Bonus points if you can name their love interests as well.
I'll have your hands for a trophy, street rat!
All this for a loaf of bread?
Aladdin. A common theme on this list is that Disney creators seem to often have a tough time deciding just how old their leading characters are. This seems to usually be a problem with the female characters, as the studio is likely trying to make sure they don't over-sexualize their princesses.
Oh, there's a big surprise! That's an incredible... I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise!
Interestingly, from taking a look at the original sketches of Aladdin, it seems like the character was supposed to be much younger. This makes the story much sadder, when you realize that it would mean that a very young boy is living alone in the streets and having to steal all of his meals. Disney has stated that Aladdin was supposed to be 18 in the movie, and we're guessing that making him a legal adult was a deliberate choice, to distance the movie from any controversy that could have come up with regards to his age. Aladdin is one of the many movies slated for a live-action adaptation, and we'll just have to wait and see how old an actor they get to play the lead.
Why, King Triton? How are you?
The Little Mermaid. At this point, we don't know too much about the upcoming live-action adaptation of The Little Mermaid, but one thing's for sure, they had better do a good job bringing the iconic villain Ursula to life. The Little Mermaid is a masterpiece, and we have to think that a big reason for its success is the choice that Disney made to base the look of their big bad sea monster on the famous drag queen Divine.
That's right.
Unfortunately, Divine passed away in the late 80s, so she won't be playing the part. But it would definitely be cool if another similar-looking drag queen ended up in the role. Interestingly enough, Ursula's iconic look from the movie wasn't Disney's original plans, as her original appearance had her looking first more like a green fish, and then in another version much more like an evil queen. The choice to base the villain's look on Divine was definitely a good one, as The Little Mermaid is still one of the most successful animated Disney movies of all time.
I ate like a pig!
Pumbaa, you are a pig.
The Lion King. There is no denying that The Lion King is one of the best movies that Disney has ever made, animated or otherwise, and we have to hope that the upcoming live-action adaptation will live up to the original. While it has been long believed that The Lion King was based off of Shakespeare's Hamlet, it turns out the story was actually completely stolen from a Japanese cartoon.
Dear, I've said too much.
That's probably a good thing, as Hamlet ends with, spoiler alert, everybody dying some pretty gruesome deaths.
Not in front of the kids.
Oh, sorry.
As it turns out, the original artwork and designs for The Lion King were quite different as well, and the first drawings of Simba and Mufasa presented some much more cartoonish looking lions. In the end, Disney decided to stick with their classic animation style, and created some very slick looking jungle cats for people of all ages to fall in love with. Regardless of how they ended up looking, we all still would have cried when Mufasa died.
No, please.
Elsa. In 2013, people all around the world fell in love with Frozen and its leading lady, Princess Elsa. With her power ballad Let It Go, Elsa became a force of empowerment and a role model for kids of all ages. But as it turns out, this was almost not the case. In the original script for Frozen, Elsa was actually the villain, but when Disney heard her iconic song, they decided to switch up the story and make her the hero. Villainous Elsa would have looked much different as well, as early drafts of the character actually show her to have short black hair instead of the long blonde braid she's famous for. It would have been very interesting to see Elsa on the dark side, and maybe we will get to see this side of her in the long-awaited Frozen sequel that will be coming out in 2018. At the age of 21, Elsa is actually the oldest Disney princess of all time, but do you know who the youngest princess is? Also, how old is she? Hold on to your answer until the end of the video. Tangled Part 2. Great, you stuck around. How about that? That's great. Well now, as promised, it's time to talk about Rapunzel's original appearance in 2010's Tangled. In the movie, the character is undoubtedly pretty.
I see a strong, confident, beautiful young lady. Oh, look, you're here too.
But as it turns out, the original sketches presented a much older and sexier version of the blonde-haired princess. Some of the sketches showed Rapunzel wearing a more revealing dress, and all of them actually gave the princess some freckles. In the end, Disney decided to go with a younger and more innocent-looking protagonist, and we can't argue with their decision as the movie turned out great. No word yet on a sequel, but who knows, maybe Rapunzel and Flynn will make a second appearance in Arendelle in Frozen 2. And that brings us to the end of our list. Let's answer those trivia questions. Dan Stevens is playing the Beast in the new live-action movie. Anna from Frozen is the only other Disney princess to have multiple love interests. The youngest Disney princess is Snow White. Make sure you let us know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe to ScreenRant for more awesome videos every day of the week.